Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, welcome. As you can tell from the title of this video, we are going to be reviewing another Huda Beauty Desert Dusk palette dupe today. This one is from Sheglam. In the past, I reviewed quite a few from all sorts of different brands, but I've been very much into Sheglam makeup and Shein makeup in general, and I found this palette. It's from the line called Glitz Wiz. Currently, as far as I can tell, they have two palettes in this line. This one is called Ecstasy, and this one is obviously a Desert Dusk palette dupe. The other one is called Brick Lane, and it's a Natasha Denona palette dupe. This is how the other one looks like. It's a quite obvious Metropolis palette dupe. Very, very good price point, especially considering that the Natasha Denona palette is £111. This dupe is £11, so that's 10 times less. The palette we're talking about today is, however, not even £11, it's £7.50. And this is how it looks like. As you can see, it has a protective shield that contains all the names. And once you remove that protective layer, you have all the shades underneath. It's a very, very promising dupe so far. The shades look exactly the same as the original palette, but obviously we want to see how they perform. Now, they're not exactly in the same order as the shades in the original palette, but I feel like the shades in the Desert Dusk palette are distinctive enough to be able to identify which shade is which one. So I will be showing you each time which shade we're using when we're doing the makeup look, but I think as soon as you look at this palette, you know exactly that it's supposed to be a Desert Dusk palette dupe. Now, I feel like we jumped ahead of ourselves a little bit looking at the palette already and talking about the order of the shades, but I just wanted to show you why we're even talking about this palette. Now we're gonna take a step back and I'm gonna discuss the similarities and differences between these two palettes. Now, this is how the Huda Beauty Desert Dusk palette looks like. I recently picked up a new one, so this palette is relatively new. I had the first one for quite a long time. I have been doing dupe reviews using it, and of course using it outside of YouTube as well, but I just felt like it got to the point where it wasn't fair anymore. The palette was quite old, the shades were getting quite dry, it was kind of unusable, so it wasn't fair comparing anything to it, because literally anything on this planet would have been better than that palette at that point. So I purchased a new one, and now I feel like it's a much more fair comparison, comparing any dupe palette to this one. So anyways, this is how the Desert Dusk palette looks like. It has 18 shades inside. It has 12 months shelf life, but just like with all powder products, that can be pushed up to 36 months depending on how you feel, how the product performs after a while. 12 months is guaranteed. Anything after that is up to you. I feel like most shades, especially the matte shades and these more satiny ones, perform quite well for quite a long time. However, some shades like these more glittery ones and these duochrome ones, they lose that impact they initially make quite quickly. So it depends on which shades are your favorites. For me, I definitely gravitate towards the more special shades, but I do really like the color theme of this palette overall, so I can just skip those problematic shades when the palette gets too old. But yeah, like I said, it's up to you. It was made in Italy like all other Huda Beauty palettes. It is talc free and it contains 25.2 grams of product. The full price of this palette is £56, very similarly to other Huda Beauty eyeshadow palettes. However, because this palette is quite old and I feel like not the most popular one due to performance issues, it is currently on sale almost everywhere. I saw it in TK Maxx previously for £29.99. It is currently £28 on Huda's own website. I saw it on Feel Unique for £39.50. So wherever you look, you will be able to find it for a discounted price. However, the official price is £56. Now the Glitz Wiz palette is definitely not as beautiful as the Huda Beauty palette, at least when you're looking at the outside packaging. It also contains slightly less product than the Huda Beauty palette does, which is normally the other way around with these two palettes. This contains 18 grams of product. Like I said, the other one does 25.2, so it is about 1.5 times more. However, this one is £7.50, not 56 or 28 if you're looking at the current discounts. The shelf life is also 12 months, just like the other one, but of course the same rules apply. If it performs well, you can carry on using it. And another important thing to mention is that this one was made in the People's Republic of China and is being sold in China. Also doesn't claim to be cruelty-free or vegan. I'm going to now insert a short video of the swatches for you to show you how they look compared to each other. As always, the bottom row is the original Huda Beauty palette and the top row is the dupe palette. I must say that with some shades it took more work to achieve the same color payoff with the dupe palette, but overall the shades are extremely similar, in some cases completely identical. I was very happy with the duochrome shades. I feel like they performed even better than the original palette. Like I said, unfortunately there are performance issues with this Desert Dusk palette. I still love it though because of the beautiful colors, but it is not hard for the dupes to outperform it, unfortunately, especially when it comes to these shimmery and duochrome shades. And one thing I must say is that Huda's been trying with these glitter shades forever, and Sheglam managed to outperform her within seconds. I honestly think that Huda needs to stop with these glitter shades. They are horrible, they make no sense, and literally a company in China can do much better for £7.50 than her £56 eyeshadow palettes do. So based on the swatches, I'm very hopeful that we're gonna have an amazing dupe today. Without any further ado, I am actually gonna jump right into applying the eyeshadow and see how they work, because this is so far so good. Let's see how it performs on the eyes. Okay, so as you can see, I zoomed you guys in. I also applied some hair clips to get my hair out of the way. Now we're ready to go. Before we do, I'm gonna add some glitter glue. I've been using this outside of YouTube recently and I do really like it. I think it makes a huge difference. I'm actually planning on filming a video about this product to show you guys what difference it makes to have something like an eyeshadow primer, because I think it's a real game changer. Of course, I apply it on both eyes because I wanna give both eyeshadow palettes the same chance. And now we are definitely good to go. As always, I'm gonna be using the more expensive palette on this side of the face, which is today the Huda Beauty Desert Dusk palette, and the cheaper dupe palette on this side of the face, which is today the Sheglam Glitz Wiz palette. I don't really have any makeup look in mind, so I'm probably going to create something very simple and very similar to the other eyeshadow looks I created already using this palette, but oh well. I feel like when you're starting off with this palette, you really only have 3 options, and they are the first 3 shades. So you can decide to go with something very light and neutral, almost transparent. You can decide to add a little bit of a cool toned shadow to your eyelid, or you can go with the shade Eden and start warming things up if you're planning on using the more reddish rusty shades. I'm going to go with the cool toned shade called Musk today, and I'm just going to start applying it to the crease of the eye. If you see the brush pulling the eyelid a little bit, that's because of the eyeshadow primer we put down. Of course, it is at the moment a little bit sticky, and that is to make the eyeshadow stick to it. Okay, so I'm quite happy with that for a start. Now I'm gonna try to repeat the same thing on the dupe side. This shade is also the second one in this palette, and it's called Sable. And let's see how it goes. I think that's literally identical so far. Now I'm going to take a darker shade to darken up the outer corner. Unfortunately, you don't really have a cool toned option, but to be honest, it is a quite warm toned palette, so I guess that's why. So you have the shade called Out, and I think that's like the only one that would go well with this shade we used so far. So I'm gonna darken up the outer corner using this brown shade. You do have other options. You have dark purple, you have dark red, but I am planning on using cool toned shades in today's look, at least as far as the matte shades go. So I wanted to stick to the most cool shades possible. I'm gonna use the brush I used before to blend this out. I did get quite a lot of fallout on this side, which is quite unfortunate because we have been using primer, and I think without a primer you would get even more. And also this is the original side, so if this is how much fallout you can expect from the original, then well, we shall see how much we will get from the dupe one. It is a quite dark shade, so any fallout will be very obvious. I would say if you're planning on using darker shades from this Huda Beauty palette, just maybe don't do your face makeup first, or be prepared to fix it later on. I'm gonna move on to the Glitz Wiz palette now. In this palette, the dark brown shade is in exactly the same position, and it's called Game Over. I feel like it's maybe a little bit less dark than it is in the Huda Beauty palette, but we shall see once we apply it. I actually think it's just as dark as the other side, and the biggest difference I can see is the zero fallout. This is looking really good so far for this dupe palette. I'm actually gonna go on and remove that fallout, at least for now. So like I said, this is going to be a really simple eye makeup look today. The next shade I want to use is actually going to be just a duochrome shade in the inner half of the eyelid, and then we're pretty much done. The only thing I'm going to do before we apply the shade is I'm going to use a little bit more glitter glue just in that area where I'm planning on applying the shimmery shade to really give it the best chance and to really make it stand out. It doesn't need to be as perfect as your concealer would be if you were doing a half cut crease. I'm actually trying to move away from those really precise eyeshadow looks, because first of all, not everyone has time for creating a cut crease look, and second of all, it doesn't even look good on everyone, and at the end of the day you will get almost exactly the same look, just a little bit more natural. I feel like I'm all about natural makeup right now, so I'm moving away from that drag queen look as much as I can. So yeah, I haven't really been doing cut creases and double cut creases outside of YouTube. for actually a quite long time now, and I want to implement that in my videos as well. Nevertheless, let's get back to this eyeshadow look. So I'm going to be using the shade Retrograde for this makeup look, which is a gorgeous duochrome shade. It's basically the reason I wanted this palette. However, it's not the best performing shade at all. So I'm very interested to see how it is in the dupe palette. I feel like with this Too Faced glitter glue, I can definitely make it a lot better than it would be on its own, because it has something to grip to, and that way you can build it up, and once you build it up, it becomes very nice and shiny. So first I tried to build it up with this tiny little brush. This is my favorite for any precise application, especially with cream products, but I also enjoy adding eyeshadows on top of the cream products using it. And after that, I actually like to go back with my finger as well. So I'm gonna take some also with my finger and just try to pack it on. And after that, I like to go back with the brush that I used to apply the dark shade, and without taking any more eyeshadow, just very lightly blend out the edges to create that effect that the dark shade and the shimmery shade almost like transitions into each other. And let's see if we can repeat the same thing on the dupe side as well. In this palette, the shade Retrograde is in the first row, and it's called Spotlight. And we're gonna start applying it on the dupe side as well. I'm very interested to see how this shade performs, because this is going to make such a big difference, and so far I prefer the dupe palette, and because this shade is my favorite, not performance wise, but the idea behind it. If I get this shade to work better than the original one, then this is going to be a huge winner for me. So far so good. I'm gonna go back and apply some with my finger now. That is gorgeous. I feel like the shade applied a lot smoother on the dupe side, and because it's more smooth, it reflects more like a mirror, and it's gorgeous. I have some fallout on both sides, but I again feel like I have more fallout on the original side. I'm gonna go and quickly clean that up. Okay, so this is how we look so far. I just feel like one of them looks smoother, and I just can't get over the price point. So I think you know which one my favorite is, but nevertheless, I'm gonna go off camera now. I will finish my makeup look. I will apply eyeliner, mascara, some lipstick and all that, and when I'm done, I will be back. I will show you the final look once again, and then we will discuss these two eyeshadow palettes and decide whether you should splurge or save your money and go with the dupe. Okay, I'm back with the completed makeup look. I actually also had some time to go and check out my makeup in a different lighting, and there's one thing I want to mention about the duochrome shimmery shade. So here in this lighting, I still feel like the dupe one looks better. However, when I go to a different room with different lighting, I can see all the little blue sparkles in the original one, and that's completely missing on the dupe side. I also asked my husband to tell me which eyeshadow does he think looks better, and whilst he told me he can't really tell that it's a different eyeshadow palette, he eventually pointed at the original side. So yes, that sparkle is missing from the dupe one, but other than that, it's really hard to tell that it's a different eyeshadow palette. Me sitting here in front of the camera with all these lights on, I honestly cannot tell the difference. I'm not sure if you guys want to see me live swatch a couple of shades, but well, I'm going to anyway. First, I'm gonna swatch something that performs quite well with the Desert Dusk palette, and that's these more satiny shades. And I'm gonna swatch the shade Blood Moon. I'm gonna do that here on the back of my arm. So this is the original Huda shade. In the dupe palette, the shade is here and it's called Bronzed Love. And I must say that it feels a lot creamier to the touch than the original one. And I kind of have the same feeling that I have about the retrograde shade. I feel like the original one is just chunkier. Probably if I work with it a bit, yeah, as you can see, if I work with it a bit, I can remove that chunkiness, but I just find everything a bit less smooth in the original palette, funnily enough. The next shade we're going to swatch is the shade Twilight, which, as far as the look goes, is my second most favorite after Retrograde. However, it's again a very bad performing shade from this palette for some reason, so I'm very curious to see how the dupe of this one performs. It's supposed to be another gorgeous purple duochrome shade, but it's just not really working. As you can see, the color payoff is just really blah. If I go back with a bit more, I can try to build it up, but it definitely takes some effort. The dupe of it is located here and it's called Masquerade, and I am very interested to see how this one will look like. I'm gonna take some more of this as well because it wouldn't be fair if I didn't. Yes, extremely similar. Again, a little bit smoother than the original one, but the color is almost identical. And last but not least, let's see a matte shade that we haven't used on the eye yet. Let's go with the shade Blazing. So here it is, the Huda version. I don't know if you guys saw, but I just had a massive chunk of it falling off my arm, which is again not a good sign if you're looking for an eyeshadow palette without fallout. And the dupe of it is in exactly the same position and it's called Papaya. Okay, this shade has a slightly different undertone than the original one does, a little bit more purple in it. However, it went a lot further, it had no fallout. I think that the performance itself was much better than on the original one. So overall, looking at the swatches I previously did, looking at the eyeshadow look we created today, and looking at all these live swatches we just did, I'm very happy with the Glitz Wiz palette. I know it looks a bit messy now after using it, but it's such a gorgeous palette. I feel like it gives you almost identical shades. The performance is really good. I actually had absolutely no issue using it. It did not fall off my face. I managed to get darker and lighter areas using the same color. These dupe palettes are definitely stepping up and getting better and better as time goes by. I remember when I started off with reviewing the very first dupe palettes, they had a lot to desire, but these ones now, I feel like they just start performing exactly the same or better than the original one. And that gives all of us the opportunity to save a lot of money on these eyeshadow palettes, because just like I said before, I do not believe that any eyeshadow palette should cost you £56, which is probably more than you would spend on a pair of jeans. It just makes no sense. Save that money, spend it on something better. If nothing else, put it away for the future, and don't spend it on expensive eyeshadow palettes, because we have amazing dupes now. You just have to have a look around, find the right dupe for each eyeshadow palette, and spend that money on something else instead. That's it for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, because I would love to have you here. And until next time, take care of yourself. I will see you very soon.